A missile landed in Poland yesterday, and Zelensky came out and said it was Russia. And now I find out today it was Ukraine, but it was air defense. But I don't know. I can't make sense of anything. And this is why I hate this whole conflict. I don't trust anyone or anything except for Bryan Dean Wright, because he always comes in here and shoots us straight. Of the great President's Daily Brief podcast, less than 20 minutes every day, get boned up on all the news. Bryan, okay, but who shot the missile? Is it a big deal? Is it a small deal? Who's attacking Poland?
Oh my gosh, what a mess. Well, we all predicted this. The longer that this war would go on, the more these kinds of situations would happen that would potentially escalate because of an, on purpose or an accidental shooting like this. So here's the deal. Yesterday, very early yesterday, Russia shot a whole bunch of missiles, around 100 of them, into Ukraine, blowing up lots of things. At that same time, there was an explosion inside of Poland. Who did it? Well, the Russians said it wasn't us. Poland said, holy smokes, we think it probably was the Russians. They picked up the phone and started talking to their NATO members saying, we think we were just attacked by the Russians. Let's get together and talk about potentially responding against Moscow. Except NATO and others, to include the United States, said, we're not real sure that that's true, that Russia actually attacked Poland. We actually are looking at the trajectory of that missile, and we think it came from inside of Ukraine. Now, right now, Ukraine's President Zelensky says, nope, definitely still wasn't us. Everybody else, to include throughout Europe, the United States and Moscow, saying, no, it definitely was you, Ukraine. So now we have this very strange situation. Who really shot the missile and why? Now, the official story that you just heard from our Secretary of Defense is it was an accident. It was one of those air defense missiles that just went to the wrong place. But it's also possible, isn't it, that the Ukrainians did this on purpose. In the middle of this salvo, the Russians are sending all these missiles. They're like, what if we sent one into Poland? That would get everybody excited, and that could potentially draw more people onto our side more firmly. Would that lead to potentially World War III? Yeah, but who cares, Zelensky says. We just want everybody in this war, and we want them on our side to end it. So who knows what's going to happen next? There's an investigation. But right now, Zelensky is still saying it wasn't their missile. It was Russia's.
Okay. Let's deal with the missile thing for a second here. Is it possible? Look, I was just a dumb mortarman. All right, I know rifles and mortars. Is it possible for a missile to just go to the wrong country? Because that doesn't seem good if that's possible.
Well, so we have different missile systems involved. We've got a Western missile system and then the old Soviet systems, which actually both the Russians and the Ukrainians are using. That technology is old. And normally if it misses what it's supposed to hit, the newer ones, the Western ones, actually self-destruct. But the older ones, the Soviet ones that, again, both the Ukrainians and the Russians are using, those just keep flying until they finally run out of fuel and they crash and they blow up. So is it possible that one of these air defense missiles was trying to strike one of the Russian missiles and then missed and then it just kept flying? Not real sure. The investigation will detail that out. But what's interesting is Zelensky knows that. He knows it's possible that one of his own missiles actually struck in Poland, but he's sticking with his story. Wasn't possible. It definitely was the Russians who attacked the Poles.
Okay, Bryan, this is how I view this conflict, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about anything. Scumbag A, that's Vladimir Putin, corrupt scumbag A, chooses to invade the nation of corrupt scumbag B, Zelensky, and now they're in some kind of a stalemate, only corrupt scumbag B has the backing of the Western nations, Vladimir Putin's still in the fight. The only people I feel bad for in this entire story are the Ukrainian people who've been bombed out and murdered and have their lives upended. I have a very hard time caring about this conflict because I don't like either of them. Am I crazy?
Nope, spot on, brother. I will tell you that the numbers of Ukrainian citizens who have been killed are upwards of 40,000 people. So you are absolutely right to have a gut-wrenching response to this war and to want it to end. One other quick piece on this. When Ukraine says, hey, the Russians are attacking, it's sort of like the tail wagging the dog. They're telling us in Europe, hey, get more involved in our war. They're acting like they're the senior partner, and that's the big risk here. They're going to draw us into a conflict that we really should be managing differently.
Don't miss Jesse Kelly Breaks History, Che Guevara, the latest episode of a new series available now exclusively for First TV supporters. Visit the First TV app or thefirsttv.com to subscribe and start watching today.